we stood up to the communists, Marxists, and fascists to defend religious liberty like no other president has ever done. And I have the wounds all over my body. If I took this shirt off, you'd see a beautiful, beautiful person. But you'd see wounds all over me. I've taken a lot of wounds, I can tell you. More than I suspect any president ever.
I mean, there have been presidents who've been literally killed while in office, but ignore that. Ignore also that if he took his shirt off, that would probably be the end of this whole MAGA thing. I think hopefully, is that too hopeful to imagine? But anyway,
I mean, they saw Elon without his shirt on and still worship him.
They still love him. That is true. They believe that he's still an alpha. But anyway, that's the Faith and Freedom Conference. They're there for it. His talk about supposedly sacrificing things for Christianity, which is a religion that he's totally a part of, worshiping a God that he totally believes exists or whatever. But interestingly, his whole stance on wounds being shown has apparently changed. Now he's talking about maybe showing off his own. In the past, I'll remind everyone, he didn't want wounded veterans in military parades because it wouldn't look good for him. Quote, nobody wants to see that. So, but to be fair, this is not inconsistent because those are actual wounds, not metaphorical wounds that he's lying about. So I guess there is a difference.
The video will continue in just a moment, but first I have a message for you. TYT needs your help. Membership is vital to survival, so please go to tyt.com/team and become a member today.
If that's not enough to get the Christian right fired up, he's got more.
As you know, the radical left is trying to shame Christians, silence you, demoralize you, and they want to keep you out of politics. They don't want you to vote. That's why you have to vote. They're counting on you now, because if you vote, no, we cannot lose. They don't want you to vote. But Christians cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. If Joe Biden gets back in, Christianity will not be safe in a nation with no borders, no laws, no freedom, no future. You're not going to be safe. You're not going to be safe as a person, and your religion certainly will be, I think, in tatters.
Just remind everyone that Joe Biden is an actual Christian. He seems to actually believe that God exists. He believes that Jesus was an actual thing. Like, you can think whatever you want about that, but he actually believes that, whereas Trump is doing like the shoddiest version of trying to con people into thinking that he believes it. But this is the fear mongering that we've come to expect. He doesn't have a lot of specifics to cite in terms of what Joe Biden is supposedly doing that's making things so hard for Christians these days. So he's just gonna make up a bunch of stuff. Here's an example.
The reason the radical left will always come after religious believers is simple, because they know that our allegiance is not to them. Our allegiance is not to them. Our allegiance is to our country, and our allegiance is to our Creator. And we do not answer to the bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. You're not even allowed to say that anymore. Today, if you say that, they want to arrest you.
So does he get arrested because he just said it? Like, come on, I know that they love being victims or whatever, but like, who's buying this? Like, yeah, you're right, I can't say God in heaven because I get locked up. That's a thing that happens all the time in America, I believe it. And again, in terms of like doing the shoddy job, he's like, we don't answer to them, says the guy for whom personal loyalty to him is the only prerequisite for serving in the White House coming up in his second term. We don't answer to them, we answer to our country. I mean, our Creator. The country's a different thing, that's the nationalism thing. You're trying to pretend to be a Christian here. You can't even keep track of it. Our Creator, he's a thing, he's real, I believe him. And I love those 10 commandments, they're a real thing too. We'll get to that, but Francesca, what do you think?
He's been no one suffered the wounds, has wounds. Just like, oh God, this guy has a hangnail, and he's like, oh, kiss it, like he's just freaking out about it. Like, just look, I think the point is what you made initially, which is we are so, I think, lost in the amount of lies, lost in the amount of court cases, lost in the amount of hypocrisy, lost in the amount of it's okay when I do it that Trump represents, that we are so gaslit to the contrary that we don't remember basic things, that if you really want to argue about Trump v. Biden on pure religiosity, pure Christianity, Biden's a practicing Catholic. He goes to mass and stuff. Trump's like, I go to church on the Sundays. Is it Sunday? Is it? Maybe it's Tuesday. I don't know. Like it's just wild. And we're told that Biden's a godless Marxist and Trump is, a God-fearing. No. He often takes a piss out of Christians. He thinks it's ridiculous just how much they believe it. We've heard that multiple times from him, and he still hasn't picked a favorite passage from the Bible. Just pick anyone. Yeah. Just learn the Lord's Prayer. Like, honestly, John, what's the Lord's Prayer? Ask him that. I know the Lord's Prayer. What's the Lord's Prayer? You're such a Christian. No.
It's personal. It's personal, Francesca, to him.
Yeah, well, I like to say it quietly in my brain.
Yeah.
By
the way, he's been talking about the 10 Commandments, which again, do you think he could name 4? He posted this: I love the 10 Commandments in public schools, private schools, and many other places for that matter. Read it. How can we as a nation go wrong? Again, cite a few. Again, well, why wasn't it in the White House that you were there for 4 years? I mean, if it's so important to you, you could have put it there. You didn't put it there because it ain't important to you because you don't actually believe it and you don't care. And if he was familiar with them, he probably wouldn't like it very much because very quickly, the first commandment is you shall have no other gods before me. If he were to believe that, it would be literal, before me. I am the God, I am the one, you worship me, not God. I'm gonna, in fact, Photoshop myself into images with Jesus. They definitely worship him over God. And to that end, you shall not make idols. They make idols of him all the time, literal golden calves and trading cards and all of that stuff. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. He does it frequently, as most people do. I don't think that's one of the serious ones, but remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. He doesn't even go to church. You think he's keeping anything holy? Honor your father and your mother. Honor your kid's mother. Stop effing around on her. How about that? You shall not murder. Obviously, we can go into his foreign policy, the fact that, bombings in Syria quadrupled. He talks about wanting to execute people for dealing weed and stuff like that. Obviously, he didn't read that one. You shall not commit adultery. I think that one kind of explains itself. You shall not steal. He steals from his biggest supporters, let alone everyone else. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. He defamed E. Jean Carroll for identifying the sexual abuse against him for literally decades to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. And you shall not covet. That is written into his genetic code, is coveting things. Wealth and buildings and golf courses and other people's women and other people's daughters and other people's kids. He covets.
His own daughter.
That's it.
Don't forget.
His own daughter.
His own daughter.
He doesn't want to see the commandments because he has never lived by a single one of them. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?